from Studio B at the Beach Street Yacht Club here in San Francisco, the beautiful Marina District, about 4 blocks from the St. Francis Yacht Club, Julia's Yacht Club. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Alongside, just across the room, is, as usual, Julia Vedekint, the co-host and the the coordinating producer. I guess we wouldn't call you the executive producer quite yet, Julia. Summer has arrived. Yeah, it's warm here, isn't it, Julia?
Oh, it's beginning to be lovely. We haven't had summer all day.
It's Indian summer.
Yes.
It's autumnal.
Yes. San Francisco's very good with that.
We have standing patiently by in London, Andrew McIrvine, Mr. Doctor, will be joining us and giving us all things offshore, updating us, Julia, on offshore as we get through the starting line for today's show number 872. Welcome to Sailing Illustrated, and as we close in on show number 900 today, happy Tuesday, Julia, and happy National Mexican Sandwich Day. Do you know what the hell that means?
I hope it's a taco.
It is. It's Taco Tuesday, of course.
Taco Tuesday.
National Taco Day. We have in focus, we have the focus on Gladwell, Holtzman, Ross, Bannerow, His Majesty King Juan Carlos, and Magnus the Magnificent Wheatley. We've got segments on that at the top of the show. Guests and co-hosts, Andrew, Mr. Dr. McIrvine, GB, look at all these Brits, they have initials after their names.
Yes.
GBR, IMA, RORC, RYS, I can't. And he's a Fozy, a super Fozy. Taco Tuesday, Blake Middleton is saying, Ed Worley saying hi to everybody, Larry Kennedy, Taco. Jody Shields up early in Sydney where it's 07:02. Hello, I've just woken up and trying to watch the disaster that was Sail GP last weekend. Is it just me or is the coverage getting worse? We'll ask Andrew about that as well. 90 degrees, nearly so, in Lago Vista, Texas, Alan Long says. Joe Holtzman back from the Rocky Mountains National Park in his home in Estes, beautiful Estes Park, Colorado. Clark Chabin, G'day, already shared and liked in Michigan. Alistair Murray, we have an AAA from him, Julie, that we will use on Friday.
Yay.
Great to be with you at 7 a.m. They are on summertime now in Melbourne, I believe. Let's continue on with our starting line. The Sail GP Andalucia Cadiz. Dylan Fletcher's Emirates GBR has won, as you probably all know, and he now tops the leaderboard. They do. We'll ask Andrew his thoughts as he watched that as well. Many of you did. Val de Saint-Tropez, where Andrew was, he was down there. He's going to give us a firsthand report, including a number of very cool personal photos, some things from Gilles Martin Raget as well, and a video. Then he's going to preview for us the Rolex Middle Sea Race, the 2026 Caribbean 600, and maybe a sneak preview into the 2027 Admirals Cup. Offshore, and it's booming. Offshore racing, in my opinion, is booming. We'll ask Andrew what he thinks in a moment. Coaching Corner, John Emmett, he's back in Weymouth being positive about our sport as always.
Yes.
Some breaking news just before we went to air. The Melgus Boat Works, the boat company, has been sold by the Melgus family after 80-some years to the Terhune family, a famously good sailing family here in the U.S. What do you think of that, Julia?
I didn't hear that.
You look surprised by that.
Yeah, I am.
And other than that, Bravo Zulu to the Formula Kite Worlds will give you a rundown on the wins by Riccardo Pianozzi and Jesse Kampman. And, of course, more world championships in Sardinia. The 49er, the FX, and the NACRA 17 Worlds start in Sardinia today. We've got an interesting set of statistics about that event, including their new format that they're trialing, which may be a future or the future Olympic format. And we'll see what you all think about that format when we get to that in the last leg. This day in history, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and of course, our fantastic Fozy and more. Speaking of which, our Fozy, Julia, you know who that is.
Yes.
Who is that?
Gladwell.
That is Richard Gladwell, indeed. He will be our guest on Friday, live from Auckland.
Promise again.
Yeah, well, he was in Australia. He had some technical problem. He had a kind of an older, lame computer, and we had time zone issues. And now that they're on daylight time in Auckland, summertime for them, things will be a little tighter.
Yeah,
to
that's
us.
great. Oh,
It
he's
won't
always
be quite-
wonderful.
He
I
will
like-
be.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the America's Cup and the Olympics and a number of other things, including SailGP. And then speaking of Fozy Focus here for Friends of Sailing Illustrated, in addition to Richard, who's a super Fozy, one of the first guests we ever had on this show.
Yes.
You like those code flag foxtrots, Julia? FF.
Okay.
Fozy Focus. We'll start out in the Rocky Mountain National Park, where our Fozy Joe Holtzman took a trip to show you the autumnal colors.
Ooh.
A little snow up there on the hill, on the mountains. Beautiful time of the year. I think September and October are my two favorite months, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. Butte, autumnal colors in Colorado, courtesy of Joe Holtzman. Thanks, Joe, for that photo.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful colors also down under where spring has sprung.
Yes.
That photo came through from Hamish Ross, Dr. Hamish Ross. He's going to be on the show again pretty soon as well. Nice stuff. Nice
Yes.
time of the year, spring down under, autumn up here in the Northern Hemisphere. Bravo Zulu to yet another Fozy who has yet another cover
Oh, good.
on Windcheck magazine. On the
Yeah.
cover, Skipper Will Graves of the Norotan Yacht Club leaping the waves in a Viper number 293 during last day of the 2021 Viper 640 North American Championship hosted by Norotan Yacht Club. Sporty conditions, including 4 to 5 foot swells on Long Island Sound and 18 knots of wind gusting 26. And who's that cover by, Julia?
Monsieur Bannereau.
Rick Bannereau, who's had 19 of the last 21 Windcheck covers. Bravo Zulu.
Oh, good for him.
Rick, and something like, 30 some odd since he started doing that back in the '09, '08
Yeah.
period, sometime way back.
Mhm.
He also took that photo for us.
Oh, that's a good
You
one.
recognize that photo of His Majesty King Juan Carlos taken during the recent 6-meter Worlds at Sewanaka
Yes.
Corinthian Yacht Club by Rick. I sent that this morning to His Majesty, who, as most of you will know, resides now in AD in Abu Dhabi. And I said, Your Majesty, belated congrats on your 6-meter win. We featured it front and center on the last couple shows, Sailing Illustrated shows, including this nice photo by Rick Bannereau. And he texted back, thank you so much, Tom. I'm back in AD in Abu Dhabi. Big hug. Abrazo fuerte. That's been our
Yes.
back and forth with Julia, with His Majesty. And thank you, sir, for that text back. And then, Kayard won the Star Worlds. And I now have a private, it was on Facebook, but somebody sent it to me, a video of Kayard being very gracious and almost humble and almost tearful at the prize giving of the Star Worlds a couple weeks ago, which, of course, he won. Have a look at this.
Well, lots of emotion for me. First, I'm going to thank Frida. He's an amazing sailor. He's a great coach. And, trying to keep up with the times. We've been sailing together 3 years, and he's taught me to modify my technique a lot. He's a great observer of what works and what doesn't work. And really, we've come a long way in the boat speed department thanks to Frida. So thank you for everything. Just for me personally, I was thinking about it today a little bit. I won this trophy in 1988 before I won the Louis Vuitton Cup, before I won the Whitbread Round the World race. And I won it again today. And so the two wins kind of bookend my career. And I'm old. I've been racing sailboats for 50 years. I've seen it all. But the Star class has always been the most important sailing to me personally. I grew up in an era when Lowell North, Dennis Conner, Tom Blackhaller, Buddy Melgis, Bill Buchan were not only the kings of the Star class, but they were the kings of sailing. We would go to Italy. We would sail all the Italian boats. We were highly recruited. And I kind of came along in the bottom of that. In fact, my first job was working for Lowell North and North Sail San Diego in 1984. So the Star means everything to me, and to me also to be the president now of the class I'm trying to live up to the level of Malin Burnham and Peter Simpson, Dirk Thompson, Tom Lonergan, and Hubert Merkelbach, who's here. All the great presidents and all the great leadership we've had through the ups and downs in the Olympics, out of the Olympics. The bottom line is the star class is going to live forever. It doesn't really matter what happens around us. We've got great champions here who are 10 or more years younger than me. We have the new crop coming, Tonchi. We have the young German kids from the Nixdorf Foundation. We have a C program producing more young kids. So life is going forward, but the star class will live forever. Thank you very much.
How was that? Kayard at his best, hoists the trophy. Fritzoff clean. Bravo Zulu again to them. And as Magnus the Magnificent has said, if he's not Yachtsman of the Year, World Yachtsman of the Year, we'll think something, I think.
Yes.
We will think something is wrong, won't we, Julia?
We will. Yes.
And maybe we got to start thinking about him as Person of the Year when we do that again at the end of this year.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like we did last year for the first time.
I do.
Bravo Zulu to Kayard. Paul's been on the show. He's been a longtime friend. I've gone to war with him in the America's Cup 3 times. Julia, you've been involved in his teams, and he's not only a great sailor, but a leader in our sport, having been chairman of the board over at St. Francis, and any number of other positions in various classes and clubs, including and especially St. Francis, and now president of the Star Class. Bravo Zulu, Paul, Fritzoff Clean, and the Star Class, and Magnus the Magnificent, who agrees that the Star Class ought to go back into the Olympics. And I don't know anyone who doesn't think that except some of the Neanderthals at World Sailing. But also a FOSI focus and shout out to Magnus Wheatley, whose book, There Is No Second, is still selling well, almost a year, I guess more than a year since it's been out. The definitive account of the first race in 1851 for what would become the America's Cup, with a foreword by a certain Mr. Grant Dalton. But bravo Zulu to Magnus, because his book has won the Isle of Wight Book Awards 2025 first prize in the nonfiction division. Some would say it was a bit of fiction in that book. Julia,
I would.
Look at Andrew smiling. But bravo Zulu Magnus for your book. There Is No Second. It would have been, as somebody said this morning, Julia, in the FOSI chat, in the Super FOSI chat, they said, the book, There Is No Second, if it had ended up in second place, that wouldn't have been very good.
Would not have been reported.
Well done, MTM. Ed Worley is saying, Star Class back to the Olympics in my perfect world, Blake Middleton. Yeah. Wow, Star Class will live forever. Joe Holtzman, who used to sail the Interlake, which was designed also by Francis Swiesguth back in I think the 30s, as a junior trainer for the Star Class. That's the class my dad has sailed for years. Clark Chapin and others. Yeah. A big boat in the upper Midwest in the Great Lakes area of this country, designed by the designer of the Star, Francis Swiesguth. Bravo Zulu Magnus, congratulations. And Julie, over to you. What are we celebrating today?
Taco Tuesday.
Well, not quite, but it is National Taco Day. Have a taco party with friends, go to a Mexican restaurant, or hit up a taco stand for one of the world's most beloved and time-honored cuisines.
Yes.
Are you a taco fan?
Oh, I am.
I love tacos.
Yeah.
You fix them up there all the time.
I do.
You take the tortillas?
No, tortillas.
Well, in American Spanish or Western Hemisphere Spanish.
And that's where I live.
Well, but in Spain we say tortillas.
That's because you don't know any better.
You take the tortillas, you fry them up in your frying pan, don't you?
I crisp them.
You crisp them? What do you put in them?
Oh, lots of stuff. Depends on who.
I love tacos.
Yeah.
Taco Tuesday is a big thing here in the States. That's why originally this thing was on some other date. It was every October 4th, I think. Now it's on the Tuesday closest to October 4th. It's not known exactly when this tasty food originated, but tacos themselves seem to have been around for a long time. They were first referenced by their current name at the end of the 19th century, but the Conquistador Cortés mentioned a meal prepared with tortillas as far back as 1520.
Absolutely.
Back in those days, this would have been referring to a type of soft wheat or corn tortilla. Hard taco shells are a much more recent innovation. Julia, for extra credit,
Yes.
do you prefer your tortillas hard or soft?
Crisp.
Crisp. You crisp in your pan.
No,
Okay.
but not hard.
Clark Shaven back on the star class. We can be unanimous that it ought to be back in the Olympics, but the probability of that happening can be illustrated with a propane torch and this here snowball. You don't have any snow in Michigan yet. Gordon Smith asking if that's Michael Caine joining us this his evening in Europe, but here our afternoon in San Francisco. Yes, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvine, who's one of the most popular guests we've ever had on this show, whether we're talking about medicine and COVID or the offshore world or just racing in general. Mm-hmm. He is joining us today. And when that went up last night, the promo slide, people were saying, is that Michael Caine? That is Andrew. He looks a bit like Michael Caine. And then they were wondering if that was who the guy was firing the cannon. And apropos, one of the things we're going to talk with Andrew about, Julia,
is cannons.
Well, not so much cannons, but the start of the next week or the end of next week of the Rolex Middle Sea Race. That's one of the cannon there in Malta, up there on the Battery. So we're going to talk about that. But speaking of Andrew, I had a little fun because people were also saying, is he actually firing the cannon, or would he ever like to fire that cannon? So we put one of those hats on him, a pith helmet hat.
Yeah.
And immediately I sent that in the Fozy Super Fozy chat last night. I got this back from none other than Hamish Ross saying, proper headgear for British warm climate use. Pith helmets, originally called them planters' hats, later colonial patter helmets, or the Foreign Service helmet, introduced in 1877, so just 20 some odd years after the first America's Cup. Pith, because of the cork base material. During the Anglo-Zulu War, the white helmets were dyed with mud or tea, of course, camouflage. Later, khaki-colored were issued for active tropical service. Formally abolished in 1948, other than for ceremonial use. And here is a picture of some other gentlemen in helmets, pith helmets, and one who is not. Do you know who that is, Julia?
Oh, yes, but I can't remember who it is.
Is it Andrew McIrvine in his younger days?
Yeah, of course.
Here's that same gentleman on the left, a recent photo. Maybe that will help you recognize a gentleman named Maurice Micklewhite Jr.
Yes, Michael Caine.
Michael Caine, the actor, the famously good actor, British actor, born the same year as my dad, 1933. So he's 92 years old. And with that, we welcome into our show Andrew McIrvine, Mr. Doctor, standing by in London via Zoom. Hi, Andrew.
Hi there.
Welcome to the show.
Nice to be back.
And tell us about Michael Caine. Have you ever met him?
Funnily enough, this is a really terrible name-dropping story. I hate to tell you, but the one time I traveled on Concorde, he was in seat 1A. I went up for a chat and said, I'm terribly embarrassed to tell you this, but my medical students are always telling me that I look like you, but I don't really.
What did he say?
Oh, he grinned. He was very civil.
The Concorde. Do you miss that? Do you miss the Concorde days?
It's funny. It flew over our house in South London every day, and my wife was particularly devoted to it. And for years and years and years, I said, yeah, no, we should go on it. And it got to the end of, they were going to close it down, and literally you couldn't get a ticket. And the only way we took the plunge, we had to fly to Amsterdam. We'd bought a ticket on the internet, fly to Amsterdam, stay the night in Amsterdam, fly back to Heathrow, cross the terminal into the Concorde Lounge, and get on Concorde to New York. And we did it. And it was fantastic.
That's a lovely story. Yeah.
They used to ply you with a colossal amount of alcohol, and it's quite a short flight. And but it was magic. I'm so glad that we did it.
Julia,
Because,
do you recognize? Sorry, go ahead. Say that again.
Well, it was the end of supersonic flight. They talk about it all the time, but at least we did it, and it was close. It was literally in the last couple of weeks before they stopped it.
Julia, do you recognize the vest that Andrew is wearing?
I do.
What's that from?
St. Francis Stag Cruise.
And
Which
stag cruise, Julia?
Oh, yours.
The one I chaired. I being a bit of an innovative fellow, I decided that instead of having Hawaiian shirts, we should have a vest with the Tinsley Island, the TI crossed flags with the St. Francis Burgee. And I
think it gets worn a lot more than a Hawaiian shirt in my climate.
I think it does here in San Francisco as well. Well, welcome to the show, Andrew. Thanks for joining us as a co-host. And let's get into it here. We'll start with a Bravo Zulu coming up here on the screen. Well done in praise of performance. And this to the Brit team that won at SailGP last weekend in Cadiz. JP Morgan, Emirates, and of course that's Dylan Fletcher. And he won and his team won the penultimate 20. Yeah, look at you can do it again. Andrew, show us the applause. He'll appreciate that. Won the penultimate 2025 SailGP. There's just one more to go in the Middle East at the end of November. Was won by Emirates GBR in a famously good final move in that winner take all. There were 3 boats in that, and we're going to show you the video in a moment. But it was a famously good job by that team. You got it. Yeah. Don't you agree, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely magic.
And the only one of the Fozy, or at least the first one of the Fozy, who picked GBR was whom, Julia? A Brit living
Claire.
in South Africa.
Oh.
No, Claire was with me picking Tommy Slingsby and the Aussies.
Oh.
Ted Ryman. Ding, ding, ding. Ted Ryman. He's the one who picked the Brits fearlessly.
Yes.
He loves that team. So does Gordon Smith, although Gordon is also supporting his Danish team.
Yes.
They had a great day Saturday and then a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
But let's have a look here at some of the other action in the SailGP last weekend. The winner, of course, was the Brits. He said ahead of time, we showed you this last Friday, Dylan Fletcher, our focus is the same as it has been all season, just pushing to get into that final race and then trying to win. And I must say that Magnus Wheatley, Magnus the Magnificent, in his Rule 69 blog, after, I don't know if it was Sunday or Monday, but he had a fabulous piece on this regatta, on the Brits, and on the consistency that they have shown throughout the season, and including and especially in Cadiz last weekend. So bravo Zulu to them, to the entire team led by Sir Ben Ainsley with Dylan Fletcher as the driver. Other core team members include, of course, Hannah, where is she? Back there on the left, third from the left, I think, back hiding. Ian Jensen is the wing trimmer. Luke Parkinson is the flight controller. Key people on those boats, this flight controller position. Neil Hunter, Nick Hutton, and the team also includes some development sailors, Ellie Aldridge, Kai Hockley, and Ben Cornish. Their coaching staff, the whole group, bravo Zulu to them. And here, Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, is the video.
The DP World Spain Sail Grand Prix saw 6 different winners across 7 epic races.
Viva le Bleu as the French come home and win race number 6 in Spain.
It's going to be Brazil taking another race win in season 5.
Rockwell, Denmark have not made an event final all season, but after winning 2 races on day 1, they had their sights set on the $400,000 prize.
Denmark, for the second time today, the Danes take a victory in Spain.
But with the ever-consistent Emirates GBR just 1 point back, the Danes had to hold their nerve on day 2.
Early start penalty, Denmark.
Oh, and I think he was well to take that, Todd. That was marginal on a black flag by Sir Hested there. He was very aggressive.
All eyes were on Spain as they needed to close the gap to stay within touching distance of making the grand final come Abu Dhabi next month.
Today's the day these teams need to deliver.
While the overall standings story raged on, it all came down to the final race to see who would make it into this event final.
It's a case of New Zealand versus Rottwell, Denmark for that final spot in here. And I think that the Danish, they've fallen off the foils. They're showing us way back in the fleet. What a disaster and error when the pressure's on.
With the door opened by the Danes, it meant the Black Foils and Germany Deutsche Bank joined the on-form Brits in the final.
But the Black Foils, they've got a big advantage.
It was a masterclass comeback by Dylan Fletcher and his team on Emirates GBR.
Oh, he's going to try and get underneath them, and Hushcombe here. The Kiwis have got to keep not overlap. They got the right of way on Emirates GBR. What a move by the British. Absolute clutch moment in the race.
And they will cross the line with a victory in Spain. Give it up for Emirates GBR.
So the final results look like this. It is Emirates GBR that get the win and the 10 points. The Black Foils of New Zealand finish in second. Germany Deutsche Bank finish in third with Rockwell Racing and Los Gallos rounding out the top 5. The Bonds Flying Roos finish in 7th. And as we look at the overall standings after 11 events, it's Emirates GBR, Black Foils New Zealand, and the Bonds Flying Roos. But the big story is Los Gallos Spain. They are still open with an opportunity of getting into the top 3.
Julia, your team's still in the hunt.
I know.
Are you happy about that?
Yes. I don't know what happened to him at the bottom of that first round.
The problem, these races are so short that if you are in the second row or worse, you're in so much dirty air for the rest of these 8-minute races, 9-minute, 10-minute races. Yeah. Andrew, the races are too short, aren't they?
Well, I couldn't tolerate the commentary for any longer. I mean, what I do, because it's difficult to find them live, so I watch them on replay and I fast forward through all the waffly bits and watch the critical bit of the race with the volume turned right down. And I mean, it was so exciting the way he came inside at that last mark. I mean, that was class. I mean, that was absolutely amazing because it didn't look possible. So that's the sort of thing that makes the racing exciting, not the drivel we have to put up with from the commentators who are just so appalling. I mean, when you think back, that we've had very good commentators at sailing events, and where they found these people, I just do not know.
Well, we've got one American, we've got one Brit, and we've got one Aussie.
Well, I'm not
plus another Brit,
I don't
right?
care about their nationalities. Actually, I think the Aussie during the America's Cup was possibly the worst.
Andrew, let's go. Let's talk about the standings because, as we've said, Emirates GBR not only won that event, they're now on the top of the leaderboard. Tommy Slingsby and his Bonds Flying Roos dropped down a couple spaces. The Kiwis
he had a rotten weekend, but he is pretty good at coming back. I mean, I think it'll be fascinating to see who wins in Abu Dhabi in the last race. But the races are so short. I mean, this seems to be because the attention span of television is so short. Interesting that the wing foils and the kite foils are also getting their races down to 7 or 8 minutes. It's not what we're used to at all.
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I think I've talked to Russell about this. He thinks the starts are by far the most compelling, notwithstanding that great finish of the final race last weekend. He thinks the starts are most compelling, therefore, let's have more starts. The problem with that is if you get to the whole shot, if I have to listen to that, what is a whole shot, by the way, Andrew? Is that a British expression? Is that a horse racing expression? An auto? What is that?
I have no idea.
The Fozy will know. Somebody in the chat will know. The whole shot. And let's go down to the water with Lisa Darmanin. Come on, excuse me. But the point is, Russell thinks the starts are the most exciting part, and that high-speed reach over to the speed mark. They used to call it the speed mark. They call it something else now, named after a sponsor. I wish they'd go back to 3 races on Saturday, not 4, longer races. They still got plenty of time to put things in between races while there's a little bit of downtime. And then go to 2 races on Sunday and the final race instead of 4 races. And that way on Saturday, the racing's a little bit longer. If you have a bad start, if you have an OCS, Tommy had a couple of bad luck situations, Tommy Slingsby, and you get in the back of the tank in all that dirty air, in a short race, you have virtually no chance of catching up. Short legs, short race, short everything. That's what I would say. Andrew?
I think you're right. If you get the start wrong, your chances of recovery are very limited. So that you've always got this problem with those boats, the guy who gets out ahead. Unless, I mean, the only reason it worked is because the wind was so shifty and weird, and then people fall off foils. And if you fall off foils, it's catastrophic. I mean, there are 2 ways of looking at it. Falling off the foils is interesting because it makes such a radical difference in speed, and it means somebody who's got a huge lead can lose it. But also, you could say it's slightly daft that they shouldn't be falling off the foils because it's not really racing. You take it both ways. I don't know.
Julia, your team is still in the hunt.
Yes.
I don't think France now has a chance, mathematically or otherwise, but Los Gallos, your Spanish team, of which you've been so fond.
Yes.
We all have, frankly. They won last year. They're the defending champs. They're still in it. They could come out of Abu Dhabi in the light air.
Yes.
And have a strong series, and then be one of the final 3 teams into that $2 million winner-take-all final.
Yes.
On Sunday of
I think so too.
Dhabi, but it's looking like it's probably going to be the Brits, the Kiwis, and the Aussies, who are all within 5 points, and that should be exciting as well.
Yeah.
Except, isn't it going to be another place with no wind?
Yeah, well, that's the problem. It's light there normally. I mean, you could actually, this time of year, I've been there with, in Dubai, but it's right around the corner. They're all in the UAE. I've been there this time of year when in the Hobie Worlds, I think, as the chairman of the jury, and we had plenty of breeze. We had 12 to 15 or 16 knots daily. And, it all depends, like everywhere else in the world, the weather system. And hopefully they have that kind of breeze in Abu Dhabi. Okay, so let's look at the...
I've been a great fan of Los Gallos. And they, if they aren't first at the beginning, they make a point of staying in the crowd, but a little above it.
Well, actually, Magnus was talking about that yesterday on the what's the name of that podcast? The Yacht Racing Life podcast, and Magnus was talking. And what's interesting, because of these short races, is the tactical decision of whether to go all the way to the boundary, full stop, goes fast, minimize the maneuvers, hopefully, have one maneuver, one jibe, so that when you're going downhill, you can hopefully get into that bottom gate. Or should you tactically do what you think is right? Maybe that means jibing right away, coming out of the gate, go left, another jibe, and maybe even a third jibe. But the point is, you have to go for a lane. You have to go for clear air, which the Spanish have sort of been doing.
Yes, they have.
That's your point, I think, Julie.
And they look for a free point, meaning a clear point. So they want to go from point A to point B, and they somewhere in that thing.
Fair enough, but the problem again is that you've got a dozen boats on these very short courses.
No question.
And there's no width to the course. There's no length to the course. It's very hard to find a lane with clear air.
Yeah.
So if you're in the back of the pack coming out of the gate, out of the starting gate, you're in real
And
trouble.
they got caught there this time.
And what's it going to be like next year? Next year, when you add another couple of boats, at least one.
Yes.
Andrew, the other point that that Magnus has been making, both in his blog but also in the podcast yesterday, is he's surprised that Russell doesn't split the fleet now into groups of
7 and 7, yeah.
6 and 6 or 7 and 7. What do you think of that?
No, I think that's probably a very sound idea, because I think that there's particularly with the bunching up that you get with the big fleet, means that the passing opportunities in a very, very short race are non-existent. So if you split it up and there's a bit more space, and you can see that with the difference between the main fleet race and the 3-boat final.
Mm-hmm.
They can choose to do something different because they can go and look for clear air.
Couple other comments in the chat. Apropos all this, Steve Groover saying, I don't understand why they even play the onboard audio, because it's so, I agree, it's so distracting, Steve. You're trying to listen to the commentary, you're trying not to listen to the commentary. It is always talked over. Even Tucker Thompson can shut up for 30 seconds so we can enjoy being on board. Clark Chapin, who's an automotive engineer from Detroit, and he knows car racing and drag racing, he says that whole shot is a drag racing expression. Why the hell? I guess it's the whole shot, meaning you're getting to the end of that first drag race out to that mark.
Don Riley says a whole shot is a motorsports term returning to a dominant start in a race.
Referring, to a Don. Okay, thanks, Don, for that. Thanks, Clark. Nice to have Don on here. As always, David James, perhaps the U.S. Sail GP strategy was to lull the other 11 teams into a false sense of confidence, and they planned to surprise everyone by achieving positive points at the last minute. Well, it's a little late for that. Blake Middleton says they use whole shot in snowboard races too. And Ed Worley chiming in, the race course is so crowded and restricted, if you get stuck in the pack, it is very difficult to get free, indeed. And a more, not to belabor the whole shot thing, but Clark is now saying in drag racing, up there at the top of the list there, in drag racing, the National Hot Rod Association, NHRA in this country, means when the two vehicles are at the starting line, the one that is a split second faster when the Christmas tree starting lights go green is called a whole shot. Well, then it doesn't make much sense at all. Oh, man. I don't know. Chris Odorowski is watching us at altitude. He and Sean are flying back. I saw they had a fancy occasion or two at the Yacht Club de Monaco. Chris Odorowski, past president of the Cruising Club of America. You never have to recover from a good start. That was
I met him in Porto-Cervo. I was glad to see him. He's my old roommate from the Stag Cruise. And he came over for the Royal Thames Yacht Club cruise, 250th anniversary cruise, which was joint with New York. And he was there.
Chris Odorowski, whom you know well, Julia.
Yeah, indeed.
He and Sean, two of my closest friends for many, many years, past Commodore of the Seattle Yacht Club, was a VIP guest a couple of years ago when I chaired the cruise, and Andrew was there, and Chris Odorowski came. And these are superb people, leaders of our sport. We're lucky to know them, let alone have them as FOSI.
Absolutely.
Speaking of, this is not the official graphic from Sail GP. This is actually the official graphic from Team USA. They're very good about putting out all sorts of things on Instagram and social media and so on, including standings in their own colors, highlighting their 12th place, the bottom of the leaderboard, minus 4 points with one race to go. They might actually climb into positive points. They did do better this weekend. They did do a little bit better.
They did.
But, at the end of the day, they've got to clear out. They've got to have a catharsis. Isn't that a good medical term, doctor?
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
What's a catharsis?
Well, I think perhaps an enema would be better.
Ed Worley says, remember, they're trying to relate this sailing product to car racing for the non-sailing viewers. Yes. At the end of this season, we're all going to do a review, a collective review, and we're going to come up with Sailing Illustrated's guidance for Russell going forward. Like, stop calling them maneuvers. Please call them tacks or jibes. Stop calling it kilometers per hour. Please use knots. And just say knots is about half what a kilometer per hour is. I mean, it's just not hard to make this more relatable to sailors. Make the courses a little longer, maybe one fewer race, and man, oh man, let's because otherwise I don't want to just throw scorn on it. Sail GP is good. It's fantastic what they are achieving. Television numbers are not great. The racing is a bit confusing, as we'd say in Michigan. But Andrew, you've got to admit, I mean, he's having another pour there of his
As he
wine
should.
because he's
I'll be doing that between. I didn't know I was on.
But for sure, what Larry and Russell have created is way beyond anything the America's Cup is ever going to create. And I just wish the America's Cup would go back to trying to be the America's Cup and let Sail GP be the Sail GP.
Well, they're certainly making them nervous, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
I mean, the fact is that I don't sort of get up and rush to watch it exactly when it's going to be on, mainly because it's difficult to do in most places. And it's easier to look at the replay and then speed through and actually watch the real racing bit and avoid all the rest of it. And but I certainly go and see it, but I don't rush to see it live, which I probably did with the America's Cup. But you know, there's a difference. It's a long way distant from what we're used to, but then I'm pretty old, so I guess that they're looking at a new audience. They're trying to attract a new audience. So I do understand what they're doing, and I think they've exceeded expectations. And I don't know whether they've got to cost neutrality, but since Larry is now the richest man in the world, they can probably keep going for quite a while.
Steve Groover says that if they switch from maneuvers to tacks and jibes, he predicts that Stevie will get it wrong more than half the time. Andrew, do you care to venture a guess at who is going to win the $2 million, the whole essence of Taco Tuesday, the whole enchilada in the 2025 season?
I think Dylan's got a really good chance. I think the Emirates GBR have a really good chance because they're on a roll. They've won 3 events. They are sailing really well. They've got good tactics, good flight control, good everything. And you know, those are obviously really difficult boats to sail, but they've done well in stronger winds, in light winds, and they're very good. And they seem to be more consistent. I mean, obviously Slingsby has always been the most consistent, but he's had a couple of shockers. So it's still open, but I think they're in with a real chance.
Well, let's see. We'll talk about that in a month's time. We've got to the end of November for Sail GP. The next event is the 29th and 30th, the last weekend of November in Abu Dhabi, where they will be fearless, and final to Mubadala Abu Dhabi Sail Grand Prix. Let's move on because we have a lot of things to ask Andrew about, including, let's just start it right out. Andrew, is Offshore, is my title correct or Crutonic? Because I put out last night after you were asleep, I didn't even have a chance to ask you about this slide if you approved or not, but I said, I was talking to Sangmeister last night. I said, should I have Offshore Racing is booming ? Offshore Racing is booming ! Is Offshore Racing booming? But we settled after thinking about Transpac and all the amazing things the RORC, your RORC has achieved in the last, well, not only year, but the last few years. It seems like Offshore Racing is booming. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's an entirely fair statement. I mean, what's definitely a puzzle is that inshore keelboat, larger keelboat racing, I'm talking about sort of 35-foot plus keelboat racing, just doing day racing in those boats has crashed in most parts of the world. It's become relatively expensive, more difficult to get crew, going to whole regatta weeks where you have to rent a house, look after the crew for a whole week in a villa somewhere, it's all got too expensive. Sails are more expensive. Even, you know, you buy a new halyard, it used to be polyester, now it's Dyneema, it's 3 times as expensive. So just I run a 40-foot boat, and I know how much it costs me to sail rather rarely. But I think that the offshore bit, particularly, and it's a worry because double-handed is fantastically successful. But if you're double-handed, you don't tend to take a novice as your other hand. So where do we train the next generation? And I've been banging that drum for a number of years, because a third to a half of the Rorke fleets are now double-handed, because it's dead easy. You can find a crew, rely on a crew who will agree to do the whole season. You haven't got to go scouting around trying to fill the boat with 8 people. So that's been phenomenal. And our entries for the Rorke season, particularly in a fastnet year, is always much bigger in a fastnet year, have been fantastic. But actually, a lot of the Mediterranean races have done pretty well when you look at the entry for the mostly shorter offshore races, because of the weather in the Med. It's difficult to do long ones. But if you look at their inshore regattas, I would sort of, as an example, take the ORC Europeans, which used to bring in a pretty big fleet, and some of the Italian regattas that used to have 100, 120 boats are now down to 30. So, and worst, I mean, the worst example to me was the spring series that we had in the Solent that used to bring in about 200 boats got cancelled because there weren't enough entries this year. So the inshore bit is collapsing, but the offshore bit is growing, and the offshore bit is really successful. And we'll talk about it later, but look at the entries for the Relics Middle Sea have just gone on growing. We've had good entries for the Juralia, for the 151 Melia, for a lot of the shorter offshore races within the Mediterranean have done really well. And I think that sort of it is in a way cheaper. You put all your crew onto a boat and you go from A to B, and that's it. You don't have to put them up in a villa for the week, or a house. So that may be an aspect of it. I don't know. There's a lot of factors, but inshore racing is going down. Offshore racing is staying the same or actually going up almost everywhere.
That's interesting. I think in the States, inshore racing is maintaining, and I'd be interested to see what everybody else has to say, is marking time or growing. And offshore racing is actually declined from the heady days, the glory days of a decade or two ago. But regardless, as Sangmeister is saying in the comments, when we were talking last night, he said that offshore racing is generally booming because of the RORC in particular, and the work of the good doctor and guys like Eddie Warden Owen. I mean, I think that's very fair to say. John has also, in this country, has been involved in promoting as in charge of entries, promoting the event, both for the Transpac and the Ensenada race. And we're going to have him on some more talking about U.S. West Coast racing. You have people like Claire Harrington, all Fosies, also working very hard on behalf of the New York Yacht Club, running races, promoting racing, and the job New York is doing, which brings us to another topic. Andrew, when can we get both the Europe and North America back? We'll leave the Aussies and Kiwis out for a moment because they're with Europe. When can we get everybody back on one rating rule, and why have we split off?
Okay, well, that's been a personal battle for 20 years for me. When I first became Commodore of Rorke, I looked at it all and said, how come, the ORC rule actually started, the whole ORC organization started in the basement of Rorke in St. James's Place. How have we got to a position where we're now in an unholy competition which is damaging the sport? And surely there's a way that we can try and bring the two together. And I have not shifted from that position in nearly 20 years. And a certain Italian gentleman and I have this uneasy relationship to the extent that actually I am currently the Rorke representative on the ORC Congress. But as of this Saturday, I will be the chairman of the IRC Congress. And I promise you that I will do my utmost to try and bring the two together. Although I'm afraid in the last 5 years, if anything, we've drifted further apart because it is undoubtedly damaging for the sport, because we are racing the same boats in all parts of the world, and we are splitting a shrinking fleet because of this split in the rule. And the philosophy is really not that far apart. It's a power game, and it's totally unnecessary and very boring for the average sailor couldn't give a damn about this. And I remember going to a meeting in Hamburg, probably again 20 years ago, with them begging us to bring the thing together so that we could all race against each other rather than having the fleet split. And if you look at the boats that are racing in the ORC, I achieved one thing, which was a joint ORC-IRC Worlds in Scheveningen a few years ago, which I actually attended. But we never managed to repeat it for all sorts of political reasons. And we were sailing the same boats. They're still sailing boats that were actually largely designed for IRC. There are far more boats still, if you look at the overall designs, far more boats are designed for IRC than are designed for ORC. There have been very few boats designed for ORC, particularly as the boats get bigger. And this is one of the arguments in the maxi fleet about whether we stick with IRC or go to IRC. Nobody's actually tested the formula. And there's lots of talk about transparency and non-transparency. And it's rubbish. Both rules have huge secret elements because we don't want the designers to break it. But actually, the designers know far more about the rule than they ought to.
than the rule and the rule makers.
So and we end up, and the idea is to prevent type forming. But I can tell you, I'm just as unhappy about the type forming of some of the French boats that we have taking over the whole of the sort of 30, 35 foot classes in Rourke at the moment are universally Jeannot Sunfasts with a couple of J's chucked in if you're lucky. And if you look at the ORC fleet, it's old X41s and Landmark 43s, quite old boats mostly that are winning, and very little development. If there's one strong thing about IRC, it's development, because we've developed the amount of money that's been spent on developing the bigger boats, the maxis, just particularly the 72s. We've optimized boats in that direction as far as you can imagine. But back to the basic thing is, we really don't need two conflicting systems which are so close when we've got boats that are so similar. The trouble is, one of my senior technical advisors, I won't name, believes that actually the two separate rules are good because they push each other, and they push each other to improve the overall way of measuring. But honestly, for the sport, it's damaging.
Sounds to me like this is the perfect problem to give to AI. And AI could solve this in about 15 minutes. You say, we want to equalize this with this. And how would you do that? And I think you get an answer very quickly.
You've got until next Tuesday to do that. Get on your computer upstairs.
The IRC Congress is actually on Saturday.
Oh, you got until Friday, Julia.
Julia, can you send it to me by Friday, please?
Well, I'll try.
While we're talking here generally, let's just, there's some as usual, some very interesting comments in the chat. Don Riley is saying shorthanded thought, because I think we all are embracing what you said, Andrew, about how that hurts getting a lot of people into offshore sailing, into big boats. She's saying sail 4 up for training events, 1 experienced and 1 training on each watch. Truckloads of training in France, training at the RYA, Keelboat Academy, etc., at Oak Cliff, and so on. And I should have mentioned also all the good work Dawn is doing, getting new adults into big boat sailing, any kind of sailing, but big boat sailing as well, through Oak Cliff or Acorn and beyond programs. Bravo Zulu, Dawn. And there's questions about why has the U.S. missed the trend. Chris Odorowski is saying, well, the Bermuda race is holding steady at about 180 entries. And again, Chris, past Commodore of Seattle Yacht Club, also immediate, I think, past president of the CCA, Cruising Club of America. So it goes on and on. George Kreese is saying ORC is far too complex and type forms ugly boats. IRC is better. Pindar, Andrew Pindar saying wisdom of Solomon is required. He also mentioned that they are doing a good job with the RORC Magenta Project offshore training program. We featured that a few shows ago. They had at the squadron, at Royal Yacht Squadron, that women's weekend of racing, and I see some other events like that. Julia, you said it will only take 15 minutes. Gordon Smith is going to hold you to Friday to get AI to bring those two rules together.
Well, you have to give me the rules.
Well, we can get those to you in 5 minutes. Peter Taylor, is saying Dawn really ramped up the double-handed racing activity a couple of years ago to prep for the potential, the proposed Olympic regatta. That's not happening. It was very impressive. But yes, what Dawn did was impressive. Alistair saying it's difficult to ask Andrew for the solution when he has been trying to fix it for 20 years. John Sangmeister chiming in, and he's, big, experienced offshore sailor, racer for many, many years. ORC is not a measurement rule. It is a design rule to market certain form types, hull types, boat types. That's an interesting comment. Regardless, yes. I hope, Mr. Doctor, you and our good friend, my good friend, I'm not sure he's your good friend, but I've known Bruno Finzi since forever. He represented the Yacht Club Italiano into the America's Cup World way before he got involved in the offshore rule. He is a consummate politician, but he's got a big following both in, Central Europe, Italy in particular, but also over here in the U.S. where the ORC has taken hold. And we'll get Dobbs Davis and some of the others on at some point. But we do need to reconcile. The competition is always good, but it's not good for a sport when it fractures the participation. And I shall we leave it there? Last word, Andrew.
Yeah, I think, I can bore you all to death on it. We'll go around in circles. The fact is, the basic fact is, I don't think we need two systems which are fairly close if it's to reduce the number of participants. That's what we're really after, is to get people back on the water. And I vividly remember having a very long conversation with a previous New York Yacht Club Commodore who said he was going to change everything to RC, not because he thought it was better, but because he thought it would encourage more boats to come off the hard and go sailing again.
Well,
I understand what he was trying to do, but it didn't work.
It didn't work. And David James was saying what I was about to say. The IOR likely has some lessons to teach us from the days of quarter tonners, 1-tonners, 2-tonners, the so-called level rating rules, the 50-footers and the maxis. But yeah, I for sure, and I get accused of living in the past, but I for sure think fondly of the IOR days. And it's like Sangmeister saying, live golf, this new Saudi golf circuit versus the PGA. I mean, what's the point? They're going to merge. They're already merging. So final comment, from Steve Groover. So now it's 5 minutes, only 5 minutes to get the secret rules and 15 minutes for Julia to blend them.
Yeah, what's the problem?
Done in 20 minutes. What has Mr. Doctor been up to for 20 years? Okay, let's move on here. We're just about at the top of our first hour. We normally go a couple hours on Tuesdays and Fridays. Thank you for joining us for this regular Sailing Illustrated webcast that we do our Tuesdays and Friday here in the States in San Francisco at 1300 Pacific. We have with us Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvine joining us live via Zoom. We've left Skype because Skype has left us. It's gone. Andrew McIrvine. We call him Mr. Doctor because during the pandemic, Julia, we had Andrew on the show, maybe for the first time, and maybe I can't remember if you were a first time on and talked about sailing or the first time was to talk about medical stuff
Medicine. Yeah.
and medicine. And because we knew you were a doctor and I knew you not well, but a little bit. And I called you doctor in the lower third. I put doctor, and Andrew Pindar very quickly corrected me and said, in the UK, it's Mr. Why, Andrew, is it Mr., not doctor?
Oh, it's a very strange inverted snobbery. Back in the 18th century, surgeons were barber surgeons and they were regarded as tradesmen, whereas doctors were university educated thinking doctors who, didn't do anything rough and uncomfortable like dealing with blood and pus. So we were basically a lower strata of society, so that we were Mr. and they were Doctor. And when the Royal College of Surgeons and when separated from the barber surgeons company in London, we decided to cling on to the title Mr. So in the UK, you get your MD equivalent degree when you leave medical school, and then you get your American equivalent boards of specialty surgery, at which point you go back to being a Mr. And this carried on in a lot of the Commonwealth countries, but is gradually, I think it's gone from most of them. But we cling on to it in the UK.
So Mr. is actually higher than doctor.
Mr. is high
in the UK. And you, of course, not only trained at King's College in London, if I remember well, and also down near Ted Ryman in South Africa, but also at Harvard, at Mass General and Harvard. So you've seen all three. We move on, but we still appreciate and remember your advice during the COVID when everyone here in California was telling us to shut down and don't walk in the park, and they were tearing people off the beaches who'd gone down to the beach to go surfing. And you said, stupid, ridiculous, go outside, go sailing. If you're going to go below for a long period of time, maybe wear a mask if you're down there in the suffocating below. But otherwise, get out, get some exercise, get some fresh air.
Yeah.
And this too will pass. And of course, you were exactly right. Blood and Pus Illustrated is saying. Shall we carry on here? Because we've got some other interesting things we want Andrew to check in on. We'll get to the Admiral's Cup. But this was the picture I ran on Friday's show. This, of course, this Gilles Martin Raget Sailors, which used to be called Tip and Shaft, or still is, but the actual newsletter that comes out on Fridays from France is called Sailors now, with a Z. And Gilles,
it's always a bit worrying to some of us.
That shot or this boat?
No, the name, the title.
Oh, you mean Tip and Shaft?
Yeah, that seemed a bit worrying.
Well, it was. We always made fun. We thought it was great. We were wondering if it was some kind of a porn publication.
Exactly.
We had a lot of fun with it. But let's go back to Magic Carpet E, the Guillaume Verdier designed and Persico built 100-footer that Lindsay Owen Jones owns. And we talked about this Voile de Saint-Tropez, at which you were there as the IMA Secretary General. And tell us about this boat, because not only is it a big-looking boat from the bow, but then you sent us this photo at the dock from the back end.
Mm.
Yeah, with the rudders lifted out, as you can see. It's a fascinating experiment. It's obviously very, very difficult to sail because it's got not just a canting keel, but one that swings fore and aft so that they can get into the harbour. Then a large canard, which is way forward in the bow, but then 2/3 of the boat is bow before you get to the mast. And then the whole boat has this massive reverse sheer on it. And it's a Verdier. Now, Verdier is renowned for designing fast-reaching offshore boats. But Lindsay's spec was apparently a sort of 6 to 12, 14 knots in the Med. And it sort of doesn't look quite right for that because it looks like a reaching boat. It's a little bit like Juan K's Club Swan 80, which is also got lots of reverse shear, lots of power in the aft sections, lots of form stability, which looks like it's for reaching. it's also a canting keelboat, and neither of them are ever going to do very well in windward leeward type light weather racing in the Med. And I had a brief word with Tom Whidden about it as well, and I think they all think it's a fascinating boat, but they realize it's really difficult to sail, and it's going to take a while to work up. And they were in the terrible position where they're beaten by their old boat consistently all through the week. And their old boat, which is Magic Carpet Cubed, is now called Tilicana and is owned by Pascal Decaux. And it is that's a great boat because she's got about 9 girls on it, including Dee Kafari. She's got some really, she's really opening it up for the ladies. And they beat the old boat every race bar the last.
And Andrew, a couple quick questions. Alistair Murray says it looks like deck circles around the rudders. We can see on both sides. Do the rudders turn? Do they twist? Do they pivot?
I think what happens is they drop down, but the one that isn't active can be feathered so that it doesn't produce any resistance.
Okay. And then Claire Harrington is asking, what about the design of the new Magic Carpet? Is there another Magic Carpet?
No, sorry. This is the new one. The old Magic Carpet is Tilicana. It's now renamed.
Okay. So this is the new one, Claire. Vice Commodore Harrington.
This is Magic Carpet. If you look carefully, it says Magic Carpet E. And the reason E is there's another 10 million euros worth of electric that this boat can now run with no fossil fuel. It gets charged up and it can run a whole day's racing just on electricity on its batteries. So it's essentially silent.
Okay, we got a bunch of other pictures here. Let's blast through because you sent, I think these are all your photos. We have a couple from Gilles Martin Raget, but this is another feature of having people like Bannereau or Peter Taylor to send us photos from events. And this was somebody's fancy new Italian powerboat?
Well, Giovanni Lombardi Strenati, who's quite a character, owns more boats than you can believe. This is his largest Wally motorboat, which I'm not sure. It's obviously a thing of, there's people have different tastes. It's possibly not for me. It's very large and comfortable. His boats are either called Django or Be Cool. So at one end, this is one of the Be Cools, the new Swan 128, and that is a thing of beauty. He gave me a guided tour all over that, and that is absolutely stunningly beautiful. And all the decor inside and everything, that is a work of art. I can't quite get my head around this one.
Is this electric? There's some back and forth. We saw the sailboats electric, the previous shot.
No, I don't think this is. No,
this is diesel.
Yeah,
not hydrogen or electric.
His other boats, he bought the old Highland Fling, the 82 that was a sort of Wally. He's also he bought 2 boats for the Admiral's Cup this year, a JPK and a Wally Rocket 51. Then he's got Django, the Wally Rocket 71, which has been cleaning up in what was the old Maxi 72 class. And there's a whole lot of other boats he's got as well. So
okay,
he's quite a character.
We're going to show some pictures of Django in a minute, but what is this?
This is Vesper.
Vesper and
this is Vesper and Django. Vesper is Jim Schwartz and is actually one of the oldest of the Max 72s. It had the least modifications apart from water ballast and is still doing extremely well.
Speaking of water,
they've all spent a lot of money.
Sorry, they both spend a lot.
They've all spent a lot of money modifying them, but in fact, that one's been modified the least and is still winning. Yeah, that's Lionel Schurch and James Boyd on the day when it was actually pouring down, when we were standing in the courtyard, the Piazzetta outside the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda.
And James Boyd has been doing a fantastic job for you.
James Boyd does. Yeah, he's wonderful. He writes he's got absolutely encyclopedic knowledge about everything sailing, but particularly the maxis, because he's been working with us for the last 10 years. He also knows more than is good for anybody about multi-hulls, because his dad used to sell them when he was small.
So another shot of Vesper.
Yeah, that's Vesper, and it's Jim Schwartz's wife who designed the paint job on the sail and all the art on it, and it's a very lovely boat.
And he's a member both of St. Francis and New York.
And the IMA, yeah.
And the IMA. In fact, I think I wrote a letter for him to
Ken Keith.
New York.
Julie. He runs the operation, yeah.
Yeah, Kenny Keith, whom you know well, RC's son, here at St. Francis, has been running that boat. And
that's the boat.
That's the boat, Vesper. You hear he's all the time going off to the Med and to the Caribbean. We hardly see.
Not only that, he was running the 52-foot Vesper with Stu Bannatyne and other people on it in the same regatta at the same time.
Exactly. He's a busy boy and, of course, runs a great marina here in the Bay, and we know him for many, many years, Kenny Keith. Now, this is another photographer friend of ours, esteemed Italian photographer, doing what?
Well, I love it. Carlo Belenghi, who always likes to get the extra special shot. And there he is hiding in his helicopter just behind the rock, just south of Porticavo, waiting for the boats to come around. But I mean, it's extraordinary to take the chopper down to about 10 foot off the water. So I had to take a picture of that. That again that's the new Django 7X, it's called, Wally Rocket 71. And that's the smallest of the Maxi GP and the lightest, but is showing incredible performance. And when you think that the others have spent hundreds of thousands optimizing the boats over the last 10 years, and then he pops up with this boating design with water ballast, but actually shorter, and it's going incredibly well. So he won the World Championship, and he's just, which he did reasonably comfortably. He won in Porticavo. He had a bad last day, and he only won by 1 point, but it was very, very tight with him and Vesper all the way through. So
Claire Harrington says that Jim Schwartz is also a member of the Edgartown Yacht Club, where she, of course, is past Commodore.
Excellent.
So, Alley Cat Media, we have somebody commenting on here regularly, and nice to have you, sir or madame. Alley Cat Media, we love Carlo. Yes, we all love Carlo Berlanghi. Julie, you had a question or a comment?
I did.
Oh, you didn't? I thought you put your hand up.
I did, but I forgot what it was.
Okay, well, let's look at a couple more. There's the Django again.
Yeah. I think the absolute amazing difference for Django, and it was the same in the Admiral's Cup, is a character called Vasco Vascotto, who's one of the most famous navigators in the world, really. And he's on the RC44s, the TP52s. He's a lovely guy. He's nearly always smiling, and he wrote a lovely piece in the latest Seahorse. He wrote an incredibly complimentary piece about how the Admiral's Cup was the best event he's ever done. And he is an absolute magician. I have a vivid memory of him. I was watched when the RC44s came to the Solent, and the Solent is, as you know, massively tidal. And there was a flood tide coming up the Solent from the west, and everybody was going right to avoid the tide in the shallower water to the right. Vasco, all on his own, goes off left towards Newtown, picks up an enormous lift, comes back and crosses the fleet. And he's not a local. It was just sort of incredible to watch. But he did the same. There was a race, and there was a picture of the start, and he obviously decided he was going to go right. He positioned himself so he could tack immediately on the start. And he did exactly the same. He went up the right, caught a right shift, tacked and crossed the fleet, although he's technically the slowest boat upwind of that fleet.
They won overall. At the Django won overall, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And the World Championships in Porticavo. Yeah. And Vasco is just brilliant.
I've known him since his America's Cup days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful shot, Andrew. Another one. We're gonna put you up there with the other photographers. Are you taking this with a serious camera or with your iPhone or what?
iPhone. Just my iPhone.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. 2-year-old iPhone. I might buy the new one. Try and
Well,
get them.
while we're on iPhones, Andrew, I don't think we have time, but just before we went to air, my new iPhone showed up.
New toys arrived, is it?
I've been on an iPhone 11. So how old's iPhone 11? That's 6 years old? What's yours, Julia?
An 11.
15 is 2 years old, so work back.
I don't know how old. So my iPhone, and I did all the researches, and I've got I was going to do an unboxing here on the show, but we don't have time. It's a new iPhone.
The cameras are meant to be better, so it must be
exactly. Good. And between the iPhone 17, the 17 Pro, and the 17 Pro Max, Julia, forget about the Pro or the Pro Max. The 17, everyone is raving about it. All the technical reviewers here that know what they're doing, from soup to nuts, left to right, are all saying, unless you are really a pro movie producer, photographer, just get the 17 regular, because it's some kind of an amazing phone and hopefully camera, because that's all I use it for,
Yeah, the cameras are amazing.
They are. Mm-hmm. So this is an important lady skipper.
Yeah, that's Pascal Decaux, who bought the old magic carpet from Lindsay, and she's decided to really push and bring lots more girls on board. And we had a new rule. We had a vote at the Maxi AGM, and we said we are going to allow, because we've got various things. We've got a special rating for reduced crew, because mostly the rating rule allows you more crew than you really need. So you take fewer crew, you get the rating allowance. But then we said, if you've got girls or under 21s, then you can have those extra for free, not on your crew list, not counting as extra crew, and not pushing your rating up.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
As you know, we did the same with the Admiral's Cup. We actually made it mandatory in the Admiral's Cup that every boat has to have one female and one youth.
Well, in Sail GP and the America's Cup, that seems to be the way.
It's all a bit token, but we're getting there. I'm suggesting for the next one, instead of saying you have to have one and one on each boat, you can say, we'll push it up one and say you have 5 between your 2 boats, and you can mix and match whatever suits you.
And
yeah, another girl driver. So that's Liz Flowers, and her dad James, and she drove the boat. They share that boat with David Leuschen, Galatea, the 100 Quattrocento, and she is, a plucky girl. She's got a couple of America's Cup winning and Olympic tacticians on her shoulder, which is why I really don't blame her for the little accident they had on the first day, because I'm sure they put her in that position. But she's still smiling, and they put her back on the helm at the end of the week. And her father's a lovely guy, and they won. We have 2 series for the Maxis. We have one for offshore racing over the season, the Med, and one for inshore racing. And they won the inshore racing series despite having had a rather dodgy week. So that was very nice to be able to present them with that. That's the Django on the dock in Porto-Cervo, the 71.
70-footer, right?
Yeah.
Anything interesting in this shot?
Well,
anything of note?
Again, if you look at these boats, they're very open. They're very light weather day boat sort of. When you think that earlier iterations of the 72s, like Ran back in the day, Nicholas won 2 Fastnets back to back. There's no way you could take these boats on the Fastnet. Mm-hmm. So it has changed, and it worries me a little bit.
Changing tack.
Yeah, you have to mag that one up, because I love that. There's a guy with the bagpipes, and he's up on the cross trees.
Oh, I didn't see that.
piping this classic out of the harbour and back in the harbour every day in San Tropez.
Up on the spreader every day?
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
How lovely.
And Andrew, what happened to the J boats? They were there, a couple of them, but not racing, I understand.
Yeah, it's a real worry. I know that the Stuart Childerley was trying to organise them, and
he was the class secretary.
Yeah, we ran a Worlds in Newport with 6 or 7 of them back 6 or 7 years ago, and the IMA was involved, and I was there, and it was phenomenal, and everybody was very excited about it. And then since then, we've very rarely got 3, usually only 2 together at any regatta, and they just basically have become unmanageable. I mean, Hugh Morrison, who's spent a fortune restoring Shamrock, she's not raced at all yet. I mean, she was meant to be ready for Barcelona for the America's Cup last year when they had a regatta, but they hadn't quite got her right in time. And she's come down to the Med this year, but not with any serious aim to race. Lionheart, who won the last Worlds, doesn't seem to want to race. The ones that want to race are Velshida and Svea. And I gather Neville Crichton bought one, but he's selling it again because there's no racing. And no, the sort of focus seems to have gone out of it. It's very, very sad because it was so exciting to see these boats come from mostly sort of literally watery graves, mud berths I remember seeing Velshida when she was first dragged out of the mud. And now is the most immaculate, beautiful boat you've ever seen. And they just don't seem to be able to get themselves together as the class, which is tragic.
Well, let's go back to some racing. And before I leave this segment, I don't want to lose the comment. Sangmeister, John's put in another comment, if you see there in the middle. Commodore McIrvine, in your new role as chairman of IRC, I urge you to coddle the owners and avoid the advice of the technicians. Offshore racing is not better with canting keels. Offshore racing is not better with other expensive gadgets. Consider the owner's experience in changes to the rules. Andrew.
Yeah, John, don't worry about it. I'm an owner.
Okay, let's get to some racing here. And coming up in a couple weeks, starting on Saturday, the 18th of October, the Rolex Middle Sea Race in Malta. They have 118 entries.
Wow.
From 30 nations. Bravo Zulu. The Rolex Middle Sea Race was created as a result of sporting rivalry between 2 British yachtsmen residing in Malta, Alan Green and Jimmy White, and 2 Maltese sailors, John and Paul Ripard. John Ripard is a Fozy. I've known John since forever. I had him on a couple of America's Cup juries. We judged together at, he was on the Maxi Worlds jury, Star Worlds juries, good old friends. They are both members of the Royal Malta Yacht Club. Alan Green, who would go on to become secretary of the Rourke, and Jimmy originally proposed a race course that was longer than typical in the region, and one designed to offer an exciting competition in windier autumnal conditions. The initial suggestion was for a short course, a long course that would start in Malta and finish in Sicily in one year, and then start in Syracuse and finish in Malta the next. And as you all know, they've now gone back to running the race around those islands, starting and finishing in Malta, and it's a fabulous race with a growing participation. And here is the preview video, courtesy of Rolex.
The Rolex Middle Sea Race is an offshore challenge like no other. A 606 nautical mile odyssey that tests the spirit as well as the skill of every competitor. Where teamwork is central to any accomplishment, as sailors strive for one of sailing's greatest prizes. Around one of the sport's most beguiling racetracks. First held in 1968, Rolex has partnered both the race and its organiser, Royal Malta Yacht Club, since 2002. The circular route, starting from the Maltese capital Valletta, passes through the Strait of Messina, around Stromboli to Favignana in western Sicily, before taking in the islands of Pantelleria and Lampedusa, before returning to Malta. The geography is exceptional, from Grand Harbour, the two active volcanoes of Etna and Stromboli, the rugged beauty of the Aeolian and Egadi Islands, and the isolated outposts of Pantelleria and Lampedusa. There is close connection with nature throughout, with spellbinding scenery. Each edition reinforces the race's reputation as one of the most technically demanding and tactically rich offshore contests in the world, with conditions that can transition from benign to ferocious in the blink of an eye. The rewards for completing the course are both tangible and uplifting. This year's exceptional fleet includes recent winners, proven contenders, and historic competitors. The 46th edition of the Rolex Middle Sea Race commences on Saturday, October 18th.
Andrew, are you going to race in that? Are you going to go down for it?
I've done three. I've done one in no wind. I've done another. It started in no wind. We ended up with a steady 55 knots. It's the most amazing race. Certainly, as they say, the scenery is absolutely staggering. Active volcanoes, beautiful islands, very complicated weather. Getting stuck behind islands with lots of weather.
Shortening the course.
It's yeah, we won't talk about that bit. No, God, that was
They fixed that.
Well, not really, but anyway, they won't do it. I'm sure they won't do it again. My old boat, my J125, is actually doing it again this time. It's got a different name now, which was the prototype J125 Wing to the Winds, which was Rod Johnson's original one, and that we did it twice in that boat, and I've done it in two other boats since, and it's fantastic race. There aren't as many Maxes doing it this year as have done, but a reasonable number. But the overall number is I think record is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think it is too, and we'll follow that. We always enjoy following that race. Chris and Sean have just landed at LAX of all places. I think he's coming from Europe. So he's been watching the show at altitude, as I said. Joe Holtzman liked that video a lot. He said, great video. And talking about cool things, Andrew, let's talk about the upcoming Rourke Caribbean 600, which goes from strength to strength, from Nelson's Cup to the 600, the ultimate Caribbean Challenge, the 17th. It's already the 17th edition of the RORC's Caribbean 600 will start Monday, the 23rd of Feb, 2026. Since 2009, sailors from around the world have enjoyed the spectacular and tactical course around 11 stunning Caribbean islands. Same idea as the Caribbean, as the Middle Sea Race. And that has not changed. However, the Rourke's Nelson's Cup series is a new event that has been running only since 2023. I'm going to show you some pictures. Talk us through this event and what it means to the offshore world, Andrew.
Well, I was Vice Commodore when we started it, and I did the first one, and I've done 6 more on all different sizes, from 40 foot to 140 foot, and it's an incredible race. Usually, about 1 year in 5, we get funny winds, but usually you get trade winds, so it's pretty reliable that you've got wind blowing from the east, and you've got 15 up to 25 knots, and a very interesting course with no real let up, because there's always another island, another corner. Most of think of the Transpac or the Sydney Hobart, you're going in one direction. Here, you're not going in one direction for very long at all. So it is absolutely full on. And I think when we first did it, we thought, oh yeah, this would be fun, nice sort of comfy cruising, warm warm waters around the Caribbean islands, and we all came back absolutely beaten up. I remember the last run from Barbuda to Redonda. I think this was Rogers 46, and the boat was mainly underwater, and we blew out our last spinnakers. We took it down, and we were doing sort of 19, 20 knots, just surfing the whole way down. It was in the middle of the night. It was the most memorable offshore sail I can remember. So it's a really exciting race, and there are these little. There's a huge mountain at the bottom of Guadeloupe, which you have to. It doesn't matter if you go 30 miles off or 1 mile off. You can't get away from the fact that it's a gigantic wind shadow, and it's a sort of everybody stops there, and there's a little bit of current that takes you through. But it's a real lottery. If you might get a little bit of breeze in the middle of the night. It's inshore. In the day, it might be further offshore. It's a real gamble. So there are all these games that make the race more interesting. It isn't just a procession.
I love this photo I pulled off their website this morning from last year's race, obviously, promoting the upcoming race. I also hear that the parties, I've not been, but I hear the parties are epic.
Well, it's nice because, of course, the whole thing's geared to people being able to fly in, do the race, and then fly out the following week. So there's a big party at the beginning, and there's a big party that people stay for the end, because you don't know quite when they're going to finish the race, but they know they probably aren't going to fly out till Saturday, Sunday. So you're able to have a big prize giving, because, something like the Middle Sea race, everybody comes in different days, and there's not many people left for the prize giving. Whereas here, everybody seems to congregate and stay. So it is great fun.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just joining us, it's 14:31 here on Tuesday afternoon in San Francisco. It's late in London for Andrew. It's 10:30 his time, 22:30. We appreciate him coming on live from London and via Zoom. He's been on the show probably a dozen times by now, and talking about medical things, talking today about the state of offshore sailing, which generally speaking we think is booming. And we want to cover one more thing which happened this summer, Andrew, and was a particular hit, which of course was the Admiral's Cup, of which you were the chairman of the steering committee for RORC for the revival of the Admiral's Cup. Pierre Casiraghi, who's the VP of the Yacht Club de Monaco and also skipper of their victorious team, commented, quote, "The Admiral's Cup is an extraordinary event, brilliantly organized and fiercely competitive. I'm so proud to have been a part of it." And your club, RORC, has already announced in August that following the outstanding success of its much anticipated revival this year, after that hiatus of more than 2 decades, Rourke is delighted to announce the official dates for the next edition of the Admiral's Cup to be held in 2 years' time in 2027. It'll take place from the 15th to the 30th of July, once again bringing together the world's top offshore racing teams to compete under IRC for one of the sport's most prestigious trophies, building on the energy and enthusiasm of the 2025 event, the first since '03. The RORC expects an even larger international fleet, showcasing elite talent and fierce national pride on the water. And Andrew, let me ask you this. Is the format going to be the same, 2 teams per country? How are you going to do it next time?
You timed things well, because actually we had a meeting last night. Yeah, we're going to change things hardly at all, because, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, as we say in the UK. I don't think there were a lot of things. It was pretty agonizing planning it. And as you know, I pulled in people from all over the world who, particularly, I made sure that we were bringing in people who weren't actually going to compete in it this time, so that they didn't have any conflict of interest. And everybody from Stan Honey in America, Pete Shipway in Australia, a lot of Europeans, a few Brits, but trying to get a consensus. And we all came in with pretty fixed ideas, saying, all of us who'd been involved in the past, particularly said, you can't possibly have 2-boat teams. You can't possibly not have nations. You can't possibly, all these things. But our aim was to make it work, make it easy for people to enter and not be restricted by a lot of things that used to happen. But also, it was what was most important. It was going to be not a one-off event where, great, we have one fantastically successful event in 2025, and then the thing just fizzles out again. So we wanted to try and make sure that this was sustainable, that if we were relaunching it, we could keep it going. I mean, I was involved back in 2007-8 when we nearly got it going again, and then the financial crash came, and a lot of the people who'd promised to come said, whoa, no, we can't. So it was a gamble, and it was a gamble that seems to have paid off, because you would have been absolutely staggered by the number of world-class sailors who were wandering up and down Cowes High Street in July this year. Mm-hmm. It was really impressive. And I think when in a way we're riding on the fact that there are no sailors involved in fantastic, a handful of sailors involved in the America's Cup these days. And a lot of other opportunities have gone. There's the TPs, the RC44s, the Maxis, but there's the pro sailing circuit is a fairly small club, and if they find another event that is going to be good, they were all keen for it. Of course, a lot of them haven't done a lot of certainly long offshore sailings, and there is no doubt that some of the boats that were selected, some of the 40-footers, were really not. Thank God it wasn't if we'd had a bad Fastnet, I think it could have ended in tears, because a lot of them really wouldn't have made it. They would have had to back off. So, but they've all learnt a lot, so that I'm sure that next time we will get boats that have been made waterproof and stronger.
Shall we conclude by saying that we think offshore racing is in fact booming, even there by the booming cannon in Malta, or the booming bell in Long? I don't know where that bell. I got that sound from someplace in the Northeast.
Yeah, no, I think so. I'm very happy. I think offshore racing is definitely booming. It can. There are things we can do to improve things, but at the moment, we're on and up.
Andrew, thank you very much for coming on. In a full hour and a half here. We've got a few more things to cover. We'll let you go. You're welcome to stay. We really appreciate your coming on again to update us on not COVID, but on offshore things. Julia?
Wonderful. I love your bucket of information.
Well, thank you for asking me. I very much enjoyed it.
Well, we appreciate it. Take good care. Say hi to your bride. I hope she was watching in the other room.
Probably sound asleep.
We put her to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvine, live via Zoom from London. We appreciate your coming on, and we'll talk soon. We talk almost daily, as it is, by text and otherwise.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Julia, it's always fun to have Andrew on.
It is.
He is a wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely.
Not just yacht racing. As Ted Ryman is saying, always a great guest. Thank you, Andrew. Ed Worley, nice update. Very nice update. And yeah, lots of happy people in our beloved sport. And it's nice to see offshore racing at least marking time, if not growing, in various corners of the world. Alan Long chiming in. Thank you, Andrew. A pleasure. Rick Bannerow, Mr. Doctor, always a treat and a font of information. Mm-hmm. Julia, we should carry on here because we've got John Emmett's report, speaking of Brits, and we shift over here to a little bit smaller form of yacht.
Yes.
He's been sailing in their version of the Championship of Champions, called the Endeavour Trophy in the UK, and here is his report.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the Fozy. I'm here on Burning on Crouch. I did eventually make it to the right sailing club because there's two. There's the Royal Crinton and the Birmingham Sailing Club. I think I've got that right, who are in about 100 metres of each other. And in the back ground you'll see we have these Melges 15, which is quite a new boat to me. And you'll see there's an awful lot of them. In fact, there's 30 and it's a supply boat event. for the Endeavour. So if you look in background, you'll see my lovely crew. Lorna is doing a lot of boat work because, to be honest, these days as a single-handed sailor, if you let me too close to a boat, there's only the chance that it's going to go horribly wrong. But I think I should explain what the Endeavour is. It's an event that started, and I should probably check my facts before doing this, in 1961. So this is the 64th Endeavour Trophy, and it's a champion of champion event. So anyone who's won a national championship gets an invite, but it is limited to 30 national champions. So typically you need something along the lines of 50 plus boats at your nationals to get an invite. I actually won the Aero 6s, but the Aero class had the 5 rig, 6 rig, 7 rig and 9 rig, and they only got given 2 places. So I actually got my place here with a toin cost, and then Laura was quite keen to serve me. So I did say to her a few times, you do realise I'm just a single-handed sailor these days, but very happy. I'm actually just going to go to the pub now and have a beer and watch the Sail GP, where they look like there's not going to be very much wind. But here, I'm going to pivot round in the background, and I don't know how obvious it's going to be, but here, and bearing in mind this is a river, it's very, very windy, and we have about 30 knots. But hopefully we will get some racing done in the weekend. But this is just a really nice example of a tradition. I think it's something that I like to see a lot of countries do. And sailing, it's a sociable sport. So we all go off over the summer and we do our events, and I've just got back from the Masters World, but it's nice to bring all the classes together at one point. So sail fast, sail safe, and keep having fun.
The British version of what we call here the Championship of Champions, which started in 1976 here in the U.S., and it brings the class champions together. And it's I've sailed in it 3 times.
Yay.
3 times, won it once, finished in the top 5 all 3 times.
Proud of you.
And, well, that and a blind pig, you know, sometimes finds an acorn, as my beloved father would say. Just a reminder from Dawn Riley, if you haven't picked up on Oak Cliff, Oak Cliff will be at Annapolis Boat Show this weekend, the big boat show down there, the sailing show and the water show, with Refit My Ride, updating Par 40 Blue, which is an offshore racer, one of the 7 boats of ours, of Oak Cliff's, which are registered for next year's Bermuda race and have room for trainees and sponsors. Some pretty fun and cool upgrades, but on a non-profit budget. So again, Dawn Riley, who runs Oak Cliff, the Oak Cliff Sailing Center in Oyster Bay, New York, terrific job she does, terrific service to our sport. Claire Harrington, Vice Commodore of the New York Yacht Club, saying, thank you, Andrew. Yes, indeed. That was great to have Andrew on again. It's been almost a year, I think, since the last time he was on, believe it or not.
He's been busy.
Well, we've all been busy, and, you know, we covered lots of different aspects of our beloved sport. John always enjoyed the post where a young boy's goal was to beat you. John Emmett, where he recorded that last weekend, and it was really windy. And I have more. This is the Melgus 15, I believe it is, that they were sailing. And this is actually John and his crew coming into the finish in a brief video. He does know how to sail double-handed and beyond. And of course, his esteemed wife is a superb sailor and doing a lot more big boat sailing these days.
And remind everybody who she is.
Golden Lily.
Yes.
Ligia Zhu, who won the gold medal in 2012, won I guess a bronze in 2008, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the Ilka, and John was her coach, and now they're married, and she's sailing all over the place in various classes.
Yeah, in China. I mean, she started in China.
She's Chinese.
Yes.
She's Chinese. Now, we had some breaking news, as I said at the top of the show, just before the show. Melgus Boatworks, whatever the formal name of the company, has transitioned to new ownership after 80 years. I got the press release, as several of you did, just before we went to air. After 80 years of Melgus family leadership. So speaking of the Melgus 15, which you just saw, John was sailing in their Endeavour trophy in their Championship of Champions in the UK last weekend. This out of Zenda, Wisconsin. Today, after more than 80 years of family leadership, Melgus Performance Sailboats is turning the page to a new chapter. The iconic brand, founded by Harry C. Melgus, that was Buddy's dad, and nurtured across 3 generations, has been purchased purchased by Kate Muller Terhune and her husband, Alan Terhune Jr. They're on the right in that photo, both fabulously good sailors. Andy Burdick on the left continues as president of Melgus, and Harry there, second from the left, Harry Melgus III. Now that's H4s of American Magic fame and beyond. That's his dad, I think. I'm pretty sure that's his dad. H4, sailing with American Magic. His dad, Harry Melgus III, has been running the company. He'll remain with the company in his new role as a member of the board. But Andy on the left, who many of you will know, is continuing on, at least for now, as president. The entire team at Melgus is steadfast in its commitment to strengthening existing classes, supporting grassroots sailing, and continuing the legacy of Melgus leading the global sailing community. So a bit of news there. Just before we went to air, Julia. Wow. So that's some news. Alan Long was, I was surprised too, after 80 years in the family, and now it's the Burdick, the Terhunes are going to own the company led by Andy Burdick, continuing. He is continuing to be president, and I guess H3 is going to be on the board, so continue there. That's just a bit of a postscript, a PS to John's report, Julia.
Yes.
John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet, and we always say at the end of his report how important it is for all of us to get behind and push for Paralympic sailing being reinserted into the Paralympic Games 2032 in Brisbane. The Aussies are hard at work on that. Bravo Zulu to them. Anything you can do to support that endeavor would be much appreciated. Julia, it looked like you wanted to say something.
I don't.
And Blake Middleton confirming, yes, Harry Melgus III there, who was in the photo, is going to remain on the board, is H4, as we call him, Harry IV's dad. Andrew, that was fun.
Yes.
That was fun. And that cannon shot is fun. Julia, Bravo Zulu, another Bravo Zulu here at the end of the show. We got about 15 minutes to go. Well done in praise of performance. To the kiters, we talked about the IKA Worlds, which are going on in Sardinia. They wrapped up here a couple days ago, Formula Kite World Championships, and they had almost 100 competitors from 20 some odd countries. It was 96 riders from 29 nations, almost 30 countries, in this beautiful golden hour photo I used in the show on Friday. And indeed, as we were telling you, they were leading. Riccardo Pianozzi and Jesse Kampmann. Riccardo's Italian, Jesse is from the Netherlands, resisted enormous pressure in the medal series to become the 2025 Formula Kite World Champs after a week of drama. It was a climactic finale on day 6 of the Formula Kite World Championship in, I won't even try to pronounce that, in Sardinia. Bravo Zulu to Jessie, who's won her first world title. She of the Netherlands. She's going to be tough to beat in the Olympics. Also, Bravo Zulu to Riccardo Pianozzi from Italy. He's been fast all week. He's been around in the class, and he won on his home Italian waters. And here is the video.
After 6 days of high-speed competition, we have our winners of the Formula Kite World Championships. The top 8 women and the top 8 men prepared themselves for a breezy, wavy, and potentially treacherous race course. Even for the very best, staying stable on the board was proving extremely tricky in the knockout rounds. In the women's quarterfinal, Britain's Olympic champion Ellie Aldridge tumbled out of contention, while American 6-time world champion Daniela Moroz surged into the semi-final. In the semi-final, it was Switzerland's Elena Lengweiler who suffered an early fall, while Moroz and Britain's Lily Young earned their place in the final. Meanwhile, in the men's knockout races, Benoit Gomez was on fire, the Frenchman blasting his way through the quarter and the semi-final and into the last 4, along with Olympic silver medalist Toni Vodicek from Slovenia. Now to the men's final, where Gomez and Vodicek joined Singapore's Max Mader and local lad from Quartu Santa Elena, Riccardo Pianozzi in the yellow bib and holding match point advantage. All four men were fast out of the gate and still closely matched at the top of the course until Vodicek suffered a massive wipeout. Pianozzi held a slender lead. Mader knew he had to go full throttle to keep the game alive, pressing to more than 40 knots of speed on the downwind leg and closing the gap. Mader was breathing down Pianozzi's neck all the way around the next lap and right up to the finish. But the Italian withstood the pressure to cross the line victorious, punching the air as he became Formula Kite World Champion for the first time in his career. Mader took the silver and Gomez the bronze. And so to the women's final, where Moroz and Young were joined defending world champion and Olympic silver medalist from France, Lauriane Nolot, and Dutch rider Jesse Kampman, who has dominated all week in the yellow bib. Kampman was fast out of the start, although the others were not far behind. Nolot was pushing hard, keen to reel in the Dutch rider, but then the French rider crashed and Kampman was now comfortably ahead. Not that anything was comfortable today, as even Kampman fluffed her high-speed jibe and crashed little more than a minute away from crossing the finish line. Moroz swept past for the win and now moved to match point alongside Kampman. In the next race, Young took a tumble out of the start line while Kampman moved into the lead. This time she stretched away, clung on to her advantage and crossed the finish line. The world title secure, a well-deserved victory for the Dutch rider, and a silver for Moroz and bronze for Nolot. It was a dramatic climax to the week, and back on Poeto Beach, Jesse Kampman and Riccardo Pianozzi could finally let it sink in. They are the new Formula Kite World Champions.
Okay, bravo, Zulu.
Yes, indeed.
And as Blake said, Daniela won 3 races to move from 7th to the podium in second place, as you see here in this photo. There's Jessie in the middle and Daniela on the left, and on the right is Lauriane Nolot from France. She was second, actually. Daniela moved to third. I don't think she was second, Blake. I think she was third. And that was how it all finished up for the women. And then just a lot of you on here, especially you Aussies, are keen to know how Brianna did. You probably know because she's gotten a lot of ink down under in Australia. She finished 5th. Bravo Zulu to her. She's going to be a force to be reckoned with as well in the kiting going forward to 2028, one of our Olympic sailing yacht racing classes. The men in the middle first on the top tier of the podium, Riccardo Pianozzi, as you heard. Second on the right, Benoit Gomez from France. And Max Mader, who was the gold medalist in Marseille, in third. Or no, that's what they said in the lower third, but I think it looks like maybe it was Daniela was second on the left. You got to get the second and the third places right on the podium, please.
Yes.
I don't know. In any event, Riccardo won and Max and Benoit were in the next 2 places, whatever they were. Okay, this is what happened on this day in history, Julia. Just a brief one. See if you get this.
Well,
what happened on this day in history? The 7th October. Oh, Max got bronze in Marseille. That's right. He was leading and then dropped down. Thank you, Andrew Pindar. Thank you very much. Julia, what happened on this day in history in 1571? Here's a clue.
Okay.
A sailing galley, a Venetian galleassus, from an 1851 drawing, the year of the America's Cup. Daniela said she was second. Yeah, I think they had the podium, the lower third they didn't have from where I thank you, Blake, and thank you, Andrew Pindar. Second is on the winner's right, normally on a proper podium, but you never know. But the lower third was screwed up. 1851 from a 1570s painting. This famous Venetian sailing galley ship won an amazing helped the West win an amazing naval battle. This from Julia, from A History of Naval Architecture, a book by John Fincham, in 1851, the year of AC0 and Blake Middleton. Yes, ding, ding, ding. The battle of Lepanto is fought, and that is what we've got. The Ottoman Navy suffers its first and really ending defeat, because that was pretty much the end of their hegemony,
yeah.
depending upon how you like to produce it. And this is the battle in 1571, a painting by an unknown artist, the Battle of Lepanto, which was in Greece on October 7th, 1571, considered by many to have been the most important naval engagement in human history.
Wow.
The Battle of Lepanto was fought on this day. It saved the Christian West from defeat by the Ottoman Turks.
Aha.
It was a really big battle, a big, beautiful battle, as President Trump said. Summing it up, in 2009, the BBC reported in a documentary, quote, the Ottoman Empire reached its height under Suleiman the Magnificent when it expanded to cover the Balkans and Hungary and reached the gates of Vienna. It was actually an Austrian who led the Christian West. The empire began to decline after being defeated at the Battle of Lepanto, when it lost almost its entire navy.
Wow.
As Blake was saying in the comments, it declined further during the next centuries and was effectively finished off by World War I. So not till the early 1900s, and of course, the Balkan Wars. Battle looks busy. We're umpires there.
Yes.
They were fighting with pillows, mushrooms, and mostly it was boarding. These boats had big bowsprits that they would poke holes in the other boat and sink them, or then they'd all get on and use their knives. But then the West started using cannons in this battle. They were not apparently very good. But this is what happened on this day in history, 1571. The Holy League of Catholic States, formed by Pope Pius V, destroyed an Ottoman fleet in a significant defeat off Western Greece. As Alex Hayward says, all empires fall, just ask the British Conservative Party. Steve Gruber, let's just jam all our boats in the harbor and shoot cannons at each other until one of us gets up. I actually read a fair bit about the battle last night.
Because I've never heard of it.
Well, I'd heard of it, but not since high school, I guess. But there were three. There was center. They put their strongest boats in the middle, and then they were flanking on either side. And then they had backups in the middle. So kind of a fourth group in case the middle group didn't sustain the fight.
Yeah.
It was quite a battle. And it was apparently, up until World War I, it was the costliest battle in terms of human lives, too, they think, ever. It was a big deal.
It looks like it was.
The Battle of Lepanto. The battle, they say, that saved Europe, at least at the time. Okay, the America's Cup, we should talk a little bit about. We haven't done an America's Cup update in a while, a cup date. Julia, AC38, it's been quiet. We don't know really what's going on. I hear little snippets here and there, but it's otherwise, it's my favorite sound effect.
Crickets.
The protocol is gone because it was supposed to be done on the 9th. Now, no doubt they've extended it, and they're still working on this so-called ACP, America's Cup Partnership.
Which really won't have any authority for any other event.
I don't see how it's going to. They're not going to amend the deed of gift, because I think New York Yacht Club will stop it. I think that Ernesto Bertorelli will stop the deed of gift from, the courts will stop it, but I think they'll go in and complain about it. So I don't think anything's happening other than they're trying to work out this very messy, this croutonically difficult partnership.
So nobody's responsible.
Well, ultimately they're trying to do it, but at the end of the day, you got to wonder if Mr. Dalton has gotten a little. He's closing in on 70. I wonder if he's gotten a little dottery. I just think he's lost the plot. He's trying to turn the America's Cup into SailGP. It's only the second time I've said it on this show. Let SailGP be SailGP. Have 12 events, 11, 10, 12 events, 14 teams each year. The America's Cup should be above the fray, should be what was conceived by the deed of gift, has been executed faithfully since 1857, and beautifully at that. Not perfectly, but beautifully, and that's what the America's Cup should continue to be. In the meantime, a lot of ink down under. Thanks to Hamish Ross for sending this link, although it did show up in my search engines last night. Team New Zealand skipper Nathan Otteridge has joined SailGP team. As you know, we reported that a week or so ago, in a move that shouldn't clash with the America's Cup, according to Stuff, which is the New Zealand Herald's online outlet. Team New Zealand skipper Nathan Otteridge will be steering SailGP's new boat in a move that shouldn't clash with his America's Cup commitments. Why? Since Burling got the flick. Swedish outfit Artemis Racing, who last competed in the America's Cup in Bermuda in 2017, has confirmed the launch of a new team in the SailGP series starting next year in 2026. Artemis will have Otteridge as their driver, as most of you will know, when the decorated Australian sailor makes his comeback to the league. There's a picture of Pete Burling and Blair Tuke. Conflicting commitments between the America's Cup and SailGP was one of the main reasons behind Team New Zealand and Peter Burling's shock split in April, only 6 months after he led them to another retention of the Old Mug in Barcelona. However, Burling's position in SailGP with New Zealand's team, the Blackfoils, is more demanding than Otteridge's sole driving role for the Swedes. Yeah, right. Burling helms for the Blackfoils, but is also the co-chief executive with longtime sailing partner Blair Tuke. The problem is, you can believe that if you want, but the problem is Blair thought, or Pete, and Blair for that matter, thought they should be paid more, and Mr. Dalton wasn't willing to do it. Didn't have the money, wasn't willing to pay him. Go off and sail your SailGP team, and I will put an Australian in charge of the Kiwi team, which he's done. So if you make the America's Cup into SailGP, Gruber is saying it will be SailGP 2.0, not the America's Cup. Absolutely. Ed Worley asserts that the AC is too quiet. Too quiet. Everyone must be lawyering up. Croutonic. No, Alan Long, the snippets that I'm hearing, I've been asked not to repeat them, and I'm not teasing anybody. I'm sorry to say it, but when I am given information in confidence, it never loose lips sinks ships. I never, ever let it out of my little yapper, believe it or not, or at least rarely. I certainly try as hard as I can not to. Joe Holtzman, yada, yada, yada. It is. The America's Cup has been ruined by the worst trustee in the modern history of the Cup, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. They ought to grab hold of it, get it back, sit down with the squadron, sit down with New York, sit down, the squadron, meaning the Royal Yacht Squadron, and revitalize the America's Cup into what it has always been. Julia, that gets us, thankfully, after 2 hours and 2 minutes, gets us to the last leg, which is also brief. But I do want to talk about coming up here, the 49er and the 49er FX and the NACRA 17 World Championships, also in Sardinia. It's the third World Championship in a row that we've covered in Sardinia, and that starts today, and it ends on the 12th. And it also is down in Cagliari, which is where the team base of Luna Rossa is located, and here is the preview video. the biggest event of the year. I'm not so sure about that, but the 49er and the 49er FX and the NACRA 17, who've been, for the last few years, been running their worlds together. They have common class management. Fozy, who's been on this show a number of times. Ben Remacher is the executive director of the class. And I don't know if all three classes have the same president or not, but that's what's going on in Sardinia starting today. Now, the format, they're trying one of these new formats. And without belaboring this, because we are going to get into Olympic format in a panel discussion on one of the future shows that hopefully John and others are going to put together. But for 2 days, and I talked to one of the senior serious people in one of these classes to try to understand the format. Get this, 2 days of qualifying racing. And if it's a big fleet like the 49er, they split in them and quickly then split them into gold and silver. If it's a smaller fleet like the FX, the women's fleet, or the NACRA 17, they just have one fleet. But they race X many races over 3 days, and they add all the points, and they get one throwout. Okay, you with me so far? In the case of the FX, this is, I think, the NACRA format, but it's similar. But in the case of the FX, the 3 days of final series, the top 20 boats enter the gold fleet, the rest sail the silver fleet, points reset based on the qualifying rank, low point scoring. Do you get all that? So after some racing, they split the big class, in at least the 49er, into two, gold and silver. And then they race some more races. And they add all those races up. Now at the end of all that, they reduce that group just to 20, from 25 to 20. Why? So it's more easy to umpire. Then they have one umpired race. They have some number of umpired races. Yes, they have 2 or 3 umpired races with just those 20, and they add all the scores together now, from the initial fleet through these umpired 20-boat gold fleet races. They add them all together, and out of that, they take the top 4 boats.
Low scoring, the top 4 boats into, now look at this, I wondered why I had to call one 4-point final race. What the hell is a 4-point final race? Okay, there's only one umpired gold fleet race. Okay, forget about that for the minute. After all these points are added up, they take the top 4 teams and put them into this pivotal 4-point final race. Now, what's a 4-point final race, Julia? You would think they put 4 boats in the race. Whoever wins is first, whoever is second is silver, and whoever's third is bronze, right? Gold, silver, bronze. Yeah. No, that's not the way it works. To add to the confusion, they put those 4 boats into, that's why they call it 1 4-point final race. They put all 4 in there. Whoever wins that race gets 4 points?
No, it's even, exactly. It's confusing. Whoever wins that race gets the gold. So as it was explained to me this morning, if that, of those 4 boats that go into that final race, if it's the winner, the leader, I should say, the leader of those 4 boats that wins then the final race, the second place boat will be silver and the third place will be bronze. But if the 4th place boat
wins,
the silver will go to the first place boat. 4th place will jump to the gold position, and the first, second, third will maintain their positions, and first will become silver and second will become bronze.
Sure.
I'm not kidding. So what they're getting, Julia, is a winner-take-all gold medal.
Yeah.
But then the silver and bronze is this muckety-muck confusion. It's croutonic. I'm still confused by the scoring, LOL. I am too. But I when you get to the final 4, it's, if you're the 3rd place boat going into that final 4 race and you win, you get the gold, but then first and second get silver and bronze. If it's the 2nd place boat that wins that winter final race, they get the gold, first place gets silver, and 3rd place gets bronze. because second place
Yeah.
matriculated. I mean, excuse me. And we think we're making this as easier for the non-sailing public. Anyway, we asked let me back that up. Some of the sailors were asked what they thought of the new format, and all of these kids could probably go be the next Secretary General at the United Nations. They're so diplomatic.
Yes.
The final series is pretty exciting, having 20 boats racing in an undiscardable race, and then having 4 boats battle it out to claim first overall. I think it'd be really exciting for all viewers, and it'd be good to have the first person over the line be first, but I don't know if it's the most fair way of deciding the overall winner of like a 6-day event. I think that should be thought about a bit, but yeah, no, it'd be exciting, but I don't know how fair it is.
I think the new format is interesting, and hopefully it will make more people want to watch sailing. It's definitely gonna be nice to see how it works out.
Oh, it should be fun, exciting. Should be really good close racing to decide who gets those medal positions.
I think it's cool, and I'm excited to see how it plays out.
I think the new format is a good idea. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes, and also it's going to be super exciting because everything can happen in the last race. So yeah, I like it so far.
Interesting and high stakes.
It's going to be very tough for everybody because one mistake and you're done, basically.
Yeah, I'm not going to belabor it. It's croutonic, but they're trying it, and there's a bunch of other things being tried, and we're going to discuss this here. Not that we're ever going to convince World Sailing to do anything, but I will tell you that World Sailing was told a year ago by the IOC they had to do something different than what they did in Marseille. And I heard this, so this is a one hears.
Bring wind.
In addition to wind, but not by this kid, but by a senior serious person told me this morning. And I would not, again, bet my life on this being the case, but I would stake the ranch on this. And that is that World Sailing was told a year ago, you got to do something different than Marseille, and they did nothing. And they said, we'll just repeat the medal race, have some fleet races, lower it down to 10, we'll have a medal race, and but if you have a medal race and, some people are so far ahead in the initial races, they don't even have to sail. They have to sail in the medal race so they don't get disqualified for lack of participation. But they might have so many points that even counting double points in the medal race does not get them a change in position. Yeah. World Sailing was told that a year ago, and then they all said, well, that's what we're just going to keep doing the medal race. That's us. And now they've been told by the IOC again,
you got to do something different.
Recently, in the last few weeks, you got to do something different.
I think it's more important that the IOC decide that it's got to be in a windy territory.
Well, that's okay. We're going to have wind in 2028. I hope we have wind in Brisbane after that. Julia? The sailors recognize that these will be rules and they have to learn how it works and deal with it. The best sailors do those two things better. Yeah. But that doesn't necessarily mean, Steve, that it's easier to understand for the television audience, sailing or non-sailing. And this, at least on first blush, seems eminently confusing. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to Friday. Enjoyable show. Tom, Julia, thanks to everybody. Yeah, thanks, Alan Long. And on that, Julia, we get to the D block, your favorite segment with the world's most interesting man.
Most interesting
Remember
man.
when we talked about hips the other day?
Yes.
I can't say I'm entirely pleased with my hip replacement. Ed sent that one. I just
he's
as a
got
follow-up.
good ones. Yeah.
And then these next three came through from any number of people. They must all be watching the same sailing site or sailing joke site. Kids need more sailing time and less screen time. Bravo, Zulu. Mm-hmm. Well said. At the post-regatta picnic, tip the picnic table on its side, hold down the leeward side, and hike out with your hamburger, your hot dog, your baked beans.
Yeah, they got to be comfortable.
That's not funny. I used to shave back in the day.
Yes.
Instead of standing up in front of the mirror and shaving, standing up, I used to shave every morning like this.
To work your knees.
To work your legs. It was kind of a hiking thing.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I can't even do it now for that 10-second demonstration.
Yes.
But yeah, it's an important part of sailing. How long does it take an average person to become a sailor? An average person will never become a sailor, Julia.
Uh-huh. That's a good answer.
And second to last is this one. The first time you went sailing, the 1,000th time you went sailing. All you did was get older and grow a beard, Julia.
That's difficult for me to do that.
Well, your hair could go gray, though.
Easy.
Huh?
Easy.
And Blake Middleton's All the Smartest People Sail. We appreciate that very much. 2 hours and 14 minutes, and we are done, Julia. We are at the finish line. And at the finish line, you like to say,
do not miss the opportunity to like and follow and share.
Indeed. And we appreciate especially the sharing. And all of it helps us with the algorithm, whether on YouTube or on Facebook. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of you who give us a few bucks. We got another $5 patron this morning.
Yay.
Yes. MJ.
Oh, good.
Mary Jude Szymanski from Philadelphia. I hope you don't mind me saying MJ, Mary Jude, but we appreciate it very much. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated if you want to give us a few bucks a month to keep us on the air with all this studio gear and all the bloody streaming fees, Julia.
I know.
I didn't spend any of it on this new iPhone. And I'm not going to do an opening. I'm not going to do an unboxing here on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I've showed great patience because this came about 10 o'clock this morning.
Oh, you have?
And I had to prepare the show, and we barely got on the air.
Yes.
As it was, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
Final thoughts?
I have to keep catching my breath.
Okay, well, catch your breath. As we say thanks to everybody who gave us audio, video, and images, courtesy of all these people, all these organizations. And just a reminder that our next show on Friday, we will have Richard Gladwell live from Auckland via Zoom. We're looking forward. Haven't had Richard on in, a year or so. Looking forward to that. And we hope in the meantime, you all have a great rest of your week, wherever in the world you are. And in the meantime, go sailing and sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. See you Friday. Ciao for now.